Just because something can be created doesn't automatically mean it needs to or should be created, right? Right? This is probably a relatively silly question, even considering it was only announced, I think, like 2 weeks ago. But have you seen Sora, which OpenAI describes as a social platform built around its cameos feature, letting users place themselves into AI-generated scenes? And while I appreciate that benign corporate definition from OpenAI, YouTube creator Casey Neistat recently calling it a TikTok clone where every video is artificial intelligence seems more on the nose for me. Over the past several days, not only Casey Neistat, but also MrBeast and many other famous influencers or creators had used words like frightening or scary to describe the various implications surrounding the platform's AI-generated content. And although these popular YouTubers are mostly concerned about how the AI video tools will impact parts of the creator economy, I'm initially going to piggyback off their targeted worries because it should analogically provide storytelling simplicity. However, I promise a little patience will go a long way, as this content will ultimately take a hard right turn into terrifying CPG industry implications. But let's begin with familiarizing ourselves with the key term of this content piece. AI slop, used as a descriptor, began circulating online several years ago when early large language models and AI image generators accelerated the creation of high volume but low quality text and images. And while that's a perfectly fine definition, I again prefer how Casey Neistat described AI slop in his recent video as an endless dribble of computer-generated nonsense that no one cares about. Moreover, he conveyed apprehension regarding these platforms potentially overwhelming authentic creativity with AI-generated content. Furthermore, Casey Neistat expanded by saying, what happens when all you need to do is type a few words into your phone from your bed in a dark room, click a button, and it gives you a piece of video, then you share it. And then you do that 1,000 times a day, every day. Now, there's largely two ways to look at that implied content creation friction point removal statement. On the one hand, this technology could help level the playing field among creators who do not have the same resources in terms of money, expertise, human capital, equipment, etc., as Casey Neistat or MrBeast. On the other hand, these newest AI technologies are now removing almost all friction from the entire process. Thus, volume of content will increase dramatically, and the proportion of quality content will almost certainly diminish significantly. In that regard, it's important to remember there's a finite amount of human attention each day, and if there's more supply of content vying for that relatively static amount of demand, competition will increase exponentially. But then you should be asking yourself, do these massive technology companies like OpenAI or Meta even care whether humans or machines create engaging content? Overlooking certain financial cost considerations related to immense computational power increases and ethical humanistic elements, if you believe corporations have those obligations, it's very unlikely platforms care whether humans or machines create engaging content so long as they retain or grow share of total human attention. Also, since we're still in the early innings of the AI industrial revolution and the current median age of US governmental lawmakers is one of the oldest congressional groups in history, which have proven through public hearings they can barely understand early Web 2.0 concepts, let alone the next generation of the internet, it largely implies the private sector will have ample space to move fast and break things. And in the case of these newest AI technologies, created by massive technology companies, they are currently deep in human behavior research mode, testing various attention at all costs theories. But based on OpenAI's new AI video creation app Sora rising to the top of the US Apple App Store charts and achieving 1 million downloads in less than 5 days, outperforming the initial launch of ChatGPT, along with users currently expressing overwhelming enthusiasm for being able to live out dream scenarios digitally, AI slop appears to be winning. And even if I mostly get a dystopian feeling from all of these AI cameo videos being shared, the video creation app Sora has undoubtedly started to tap into the fundamental human wanting, longing, or craving that motivates actions and behaviors. So then, how the fuck does this subject matter turn into terrifying CPG industry implications? Most industry professionals would agree that it's never been easier than right now to launch a CPG product, often driven by the rapid emergence of digital technologies and democratized advanced contract manufacturing techniques. Smaller companies can develop and launch CPG products with less money, reduced expertise, smaller teams, and increased speed. And these constant lowering barriers to entry across the CPG industry have substantially grown the overall number of products launched annually. But over the last decade, I've thoroughly documented the catch-22 nature of the endless aisle age. The sheer volume of new CPG products entering the market does provide optionality, especially for niche consumer demand, but it also potentially saturates the market with low quality or unnecessary items. In that regard, it's important to remember there's a fairly limited total categorical and or format spend each day, and if there's more supply of CPG products vying for that relatively static amount of demand, competition intensifies. And that's largely why even within niche categories, it has become increasingly difficult for truly innovative and valuable CPG products to stand out and succeed. But here's maybe the most terrifying part. Even though the CPG industry has recently shifted seemingly overnight from cautious experimentation to full-scale adoption of generative AI, it hasn't augmented product creation to the same or similar level as what I detailed earlier surrounding content creation, at least yet. Though I'll tell you why I think that changes sooner and more aggressively than we collectively envision, with big CPG facing heightened competitive threats from challenger brands and private label. The old adage, innovate or die, is quickly becoming a rally cry within these legacy businesses. The rise of AI means big CPG, which is already flushed with resources and full of strong, intelligent human capital, will become more agile and faster throughout the commercialization process to win the race for white space. Moreover, since big CPG can't viably or at least centrally utilize growth strategies centered around mystery and exclusivity anyways, it will force them to amplify exposure by essentially flooding every niche of the market with product variants. So if you are a budding CPG entrepreneur, small upstart, or challenger brand, are you fighting fire with fire or guarding a niche of a niche of a niche categorical treasure? But if your preferred ancient survival mechanism response is confronting the big CPG threat by fighting, luckily, these types of text-based prompt remove almost all friction from the entire creation process. AI technologies focused on consumer packaged goods could be a reality one day relatively soon. As an example, beta launched in September 2024, Arcade believes everyone should have the power to create physical goods as easily as they post online, and it's building the infrastructure to make that real. Based on the founder's previous exits, Arcade may never evolve into CPG products, at least ingestible categories, but it would be silly to think other well-funded startups or very large companies aren't already working on how anyone with a few words or an image could instantly create priced, manufacturable CPG products for purchase or sale. Obviously, I'm acutely aware of the countless complexities and nuances involved with being able to manufacture packaged food, beverages, or dietary supplements as easily as generating an image, but that almost 2 decades of expertise still won't let me get to a point where I'd bet against the CPG industry changing potential of the AI industrial revolution. And I won't go through everything in my brain, but how about we focus on something I've confidently declared within countless content pieces? Because I guess that most of you are blaming varied supply chain elements on why this type of AI technology wouldn't be practical within the CPG industry. And understandably so, but don't forget how I believe everything is a remix within the CPG industry. Though you're probably thinking I have tons of unique product ideas that no one has thought of yet. Well, even if you can't find that exact product out right now, have you attempted to ask AI about it? I bet you'll be surprised at how well it can conceptualize, recycled, and reimagined existing or past snippets of everything, as our increasingly digitized world is cataloging everything for its consumption. These standard static assembly lines won't become relics of the past tomorrow, but they're already real-world examples of machine learning, generative AI, and automation being utilized to produce customized CPG products at scale. Though maybe this shifts us back into the evolved discussion surrounding AI slop and what I was referring to in my introductory statement. What happens when all you need to do is type a few words into your phone from your bed in a dark room, click a button, and it gives you a priced, manufacturable CPG product, and then it's essentially ready for sale. And you do that 1,000 times a day, every day. The larger financial aspect involving CPG AI slop might help challenge the idea that a capability to create automatically implies a moral imperative to do so. But as these cost barriers diminish further, the future probability of CPG AI slop pervasiveness becomes more worrisome. But even without this AI slop threat being real currently, CPG companies are already struggling to compete for share of attention with algorithm hacking, higher reach, lower quality goods. Though, and I'll speak from personal experience, what's troublesome and should be recognized is even someone with deep domain expertise like me can't even keep up with all of the awesome CPG products being created by really great humans, let alone the high reach, low quality slop. And while I could probably spend forever going through strategic game theory scenarios regarding this insane futuristic subject matter, let's end the content piece with some quick final thoughts about why my last point on not being able to keep up should terrify you. I stated earlier that it's very unlikely massive technology companies like OpenAI or Meta care whether humans or machines create engaging content. Likewise, I believe it's very unlikely that Amazon would care whether humans or machines create great CPG products. However, if over time society becomes willing to consume AI-generated anything to the same extent as human-made, these massive technology companies would obviously prefer machines. Why? They win in a numbers game. When there's an overwhelming number of products, it's utterly impossible to sift through them, and that makes consumers more reliant on their recommendation algorithms. And then to take it to another level, what happens if Amazon creates or acquires an AI physical goods creation tool, allowing the platform to do everything entirely themselves, thus becoming less dependent on third parties? And then lastly, you might be wondering about the likelihood of recoil with future generations. Will Gen Alpha or Gen Beta nostalgically yearn for a time or place they never knew, like specialty retailers providing exceptional customer service, building emotional connections with purveyors of goods, or finding hyperlocal artisan products only offered sporadically? I'm not sure, but I've personally never feared the AI becoming human threat, yet it has always scared the shit out of me that AI would slowly turn humanity into machines. But I hope you enjoyed the first principles thinking that went into my latest YouTube video. If you did, can you do me a favor by hitting that like button? That quick and free action helps YouTube know my content is worth spreading to more people. Also, we're getting really close to reaching my next subscriber goal, and it would be great if you join me on this journey. But to do that, we need to fix the fact that slightly more than 3/4 of you that are watching this video right now are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, and that hurts my feelings. Regardless, I want to thank you for giving me some of your attention and time, and I'll see you on the next one.